I was looking at this marketing deck yesterday for a new enterprise blockchain solution.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I won't name any names. It was for a supply chain logistics company, but the very first word in the headline, bold, giant font, was immutable.
Of course it was.
Right. And then right below that, unbreakable. And then the trust machine.
Classics.
Exactly. We've been hearing this rhetoric for, what, a decade now?
Easily a decade, yeah.
This whole core premise that blockchain is this impregnable fortress. You put data in, the math locks the door, and it just stays safe forever. It's almost become a religion at this point.
It's a fantastic sales pitch. And to be fair to the marketing teams, for the last 10 or 15 years, it's mostly been true.
Mostly?
Mostly. It has held up against conventional attacks. But fortress kind of implies it was built to withstand absolutely anything forever.
Right.
And if you actually sit down with the mathematicians, the people who are looking at the foundation of that fortress, instead of just, the painted walls, they will tell you it was built with a very specific expiry date.
An expiry date on a blockchain, which sounds so counterintuitive because the whole point is that it's permanent.
Right. The ledger is permanent, but the lock protecting it isn't. The mortar holding those walls together actually has a structural flaw. And right now, as we speak in 2026, there is a battering ram being built in labs at Google, IBM, nation states, you name it, that is designed specifically to target that exact flaw.
And I assume we aren't talking about just like a bigger conventional supercomputer. We're talking about the Q word.
We're talking about quantum computing.
Yeah.
And the really scary part isn't just that it might work eventually, it's that we already know exactly how it's going to break in. The blueprint for the burglary has literally already been written.
Which brings us to today's deep dive. We are doing something a little different. We aren't just doing the theoretical what-if scenarios. We're taking a look at the specific mechanics of how this fortress falls.
It's a very systematic takedown.
Yeah. We're going to look at something called the quantum kill chain. And to guide us through this, we have an incredible stack of source material today. We are diving deep into peer-reviewed papers published in the Journal of the British Blockchain Association.
The JBBA.
The JBBA, exactly. And I think before we even get into the scary stuff, we need to set the stage on why these sources matter. Because let's be honest, there's a lot of so-called crypto research out there that's basically just two guys in a basement trying to pump a coin.
Oh, absolutely. And this is the complete opposite of that. The JBBA is really the gold standard for this space.
Yeah.
It's home to the Center for Evidence-Based Blockchain, the CEBB, which was established way back in 2018. And if you want to understand the caliber of thinking here, you just have to look at the leadership. We really have to talk about Professor Naqvi.
Professor Naqvi, MBE. Yes. I was reading about him in the prep for this deep dive, and it actually blew my mind.
It's incredible.
He is the first person globally to be awarded a UK national honor specifically for blockchain.
That is a massive deal. I don't think most people realize how exclusive that circle actually is. Think about the company that puts him in.
Right.
You have Sir Tim Berners-Lee, who was knighted for literally inventing the World Wide Web. You have Professor Demis Hassabis, who was knighted for his work in AI with DeepMind.
And then you have Professor Naqvi for blockchain.
Exactly. He is in that same echelon of pioneers. It completely signals that this isn't just fringe tech anymore. It's a foundational pillar of the future, recognized by the crown.
So when an organization led by someone of that stature publishes research saying, hey, we have a catastrophic problem, we should probably stop scrolling our feeds and listen.
We absolutely should.
And the specific research we are dissecting today comes from Dr. Rob Campbell, who is a fellow of the BBA. That's FBBA for those keeping score. And he has done this groundbreaking work on the quantum kill chain. We're also going to be looking at a comparative study by Luguan and Bakhtiyor Yokubov that basically pits different post-quantum algorithms against each other.
It's essentially a cage match for math.
The battle of the algorithms.
Yeah.
I love it. Okay, so let's set the scene for you listening. Imagine we're looking at this from our current perspective, 2026. The warnings have been there for years. IBM announced their quantum roadmap way back in 2019.
And Google claimed quantum supremacy around that same time.
Right, that was the big one.
That Google announcement was the real wake-up call for the industry. They performed a calculation in 200 seconds that would have taken the world's fastest conventional supercomputer 10,000 years.
10,000 years.
Yeah. That was the moment the theoretical became physical reality.
So let's start with the basics. The myth of invincibility.
Right.
Because I think most people assume that because a blockchain is decentralized, it's inherently safe.
Yeah.
Like there's no central server to hack. How do you hack it? I mean, Bitcoin is on thousands of computers. You can't hack them all at once.
And that is probably the most dangerous misconception out there right now. Decentralization handles the storage and the consensus of the data. It ensures everyone agrees on the ledger, but it doesn't protect the access to the ledger. That security relies entirely on something called public key infrastructure, or PKI.
Okay, let's unpack PKI. This is the lock and key system we hear about.
Exactly. In very simple terms, every user on a blockchain, whether you are buying coffee with Bitcoin or a power plant verifying energy credits on Hyperledger Fabric, you have a pair of keys.
Right.
A public key, which is like your mailbox address that anyone in the world can see, and a private key, which is the actual physical key to open that mailbox and sign letters.
And the golden rule of crypto has always been never, ever share the private key.
Correct. Because if I have your private key, I am you. Digitally speaking, there is zero difference. I can spend your money, I can sign contracts in your name, I can literally shut down your power plant.
So the security of the entire system just rests on one single assumption.
Yes, that it is mathematically impossible to look at your public key, the mailbox, and figure out what your private key looks like.
And this is where the villain enters the story.
Enter the quantum computer, and specifically a mathematical tool called Shor's algorithm.
Shor's algorithm. It sounds like a bad guy in a Bond movie. What does it actually do?
Well, the lock used by Bitcoin, Ethereum, and enterprise chains like Hyperledger Fabric is called ECDSA, Elliptic Curve Digital Signature Algorithm.
Okay.
It relies on a math problem called the discrete logarithm problem. Ideally, this problem takes a classical supercomputer millions of years to solve. It's like trying to guess a password that is 1 billion characters long.
So it's safe.
For a classical computer, completely safe. But Shor's algorithm is basically a cheat code. It doesn't guess the password. It looks at the structure of the math itself. It turns that millions of years into hours, or potentially minutes.
Wow.
If a quantum computer runs Shor's algorithm against your public key, it can mathematically derive your private key.
That is terrifying. It's like looking at a fingerprint on a piece of glass and being able to 3D print the exact finger that made it.
That is a perfect analogy. You derive the source directly from the trace.
Now, I know what some of you listening are thinking, because I think it too. Okay, but quantum computers aren't fully stable yet. They have error rates. I'll worry about this in 10 years when they actually work perfectly.
Yeah.
But Dr. Campbell brings up a concept of the research that gave me chills. Harvest now, decrypt later.
Yes. This is why we absolutely cannot wait. This is the time bomb scenario. Imagine you are a state-sponsored hacker. You know you can't break the encryption today.
Right.
But you can steal the encrypted data today. So you hack a hospital, a government database, or a corporate blockchain. You take terabytes of encrypted records. You can't read them yet. So what do?
You store them. You just hold them in a server farm somewhere deep underground.
Exactly. You sit on them, waiting for the battering ram to be finished. The moment a powerful enough quantum computer comes online, you feed that stolen data into it. And suddenly, all those secrets from 5 or 10 years ago are sitting wide open.
And a lot of data doesn't expire. I mean, if it's a credit card number, maybe it's expired by then. But if it's national intelligence, or genetic health records, or the intellectual property for a nuclear reactor,
that stuff is valuable forever. So if you are securing data today with ECDSA and that data needs to be secret in 10 years, you have already failed.
that puts a whole new spin on long-term storage. And the sources point out that this isn't just about stealing money or state secrets. We are talking about critical infrastructure.
This is really the so what of the whole deep dive. We aren't just talking about crypto coins. The research highlights the Energy Web Foundation, the EWF. This is a massive organization operating in Switzerland, Germany, the US, and they use blockchain to manage energy grids.
And according to Dr. Campbell's research, do they have a robust plan for this quantum threat?
The research indicates they operate without clear or public plans for quantum migration. Now, imagine the implications of that. If an attacker uses a quantum computer to derive the private keys of the administrators for the energy grid, they don't just steal data.
They could disrupt service?
They could overload systems. We are talking about physical damage to infrastructure, potential fires, loss of life.
The scale of this is just massive. The sources mention projections of the blockchain market hitting over $60 billion. The financial sector has 60% of its tech value concentrated here. If the underlying security, that ECDSA lock, is broken, the economic fallout is catastrophic.
It would be a complete collapse of trust. And remember, blockchain is sold entirely on trust. If you remove the unhackable part, you just have a very slow, very expensive database that anyone can edit.
Let's get specific on how this actually happens. Dr. Campbell didn't just say it's dangerous. He mapped it out. He created a diagram called the quantum kill chain. I want to walk through this because looking at it, it feels less like computer science and more like a military operation.
That's entirely intentional. A kill chain is a military concept. It outlines the specific steps an adversary takes to complete a mission. It visualizes the attack so defenders can see exactly where to break it.
So let's role play this. Let's say I'm a state-sponsored attacker. I want to take down a power grid running on Hyperledger Fabric. I have my shiny new quantum computer. What is my first move? Do I just blast the network with math?
No, that's the Hollywood version. In reality, you start with phase 1, which is reconnaissance. You don't even touch the blockchain yet. You touch the people.
The people. But I thought it was decentralized.
The ledger is decentralized, but the administration of an enterprise blockchain is usually centralized. In Hyperledger, there are specific administrators, human beings, who hold the keys to the kingdom.
I'm going to scan LinkedIn. I'm going to look at your company's press releases. I need to find the chief technical officer or the specific sysadmin who issues the network certificates.
You're hunting for the membership service provider, the MSP. Exactly, the MSP. In a permissioned blockchain like Hyperledger, the MSP is the bouncer at the door of the club. It decides who gets in and who gets a key. If I can clone the bouncer's ID card, I can let anyone in. Dr. Campbell specifically identifies this as a single point of failure.
Okay, so I've done my recon. I found the target. I know who the MSP admin is. Now do I use the quantum computer?
Now you listen. You monitor the network traffic. You just wait for that admin to sign a transaction, any transaction. Maybe they are adding a new user. Maybe they are updating a protocol. Because when they sign it, they broadcast their public key to the network.
Which is safe, usually. That's the mailbox analogy we used earlier. Everyone can see the mailbox.
Usually, yes. But remember, you have Shor's algorithm running on a quantum machine. You take that public key, that mailbox, and you feed it into the algorithm. And this is where the magic breaks. The math that protects the relationship between the mailbox and the private key just dissolves.
And now I have the private key.
And this leads us to phase 2, allow attacks. This is the actual breach. You are effectively inside the gates. And because you have the admin key, the system thinks you are the legitimate administrator. You have free reign.
So what can I do now that I'm inside? Dr. Campbell lists a few specific actions in the kill chain. One that really scared me was signed malware.
Yes. The sources reference Triton. Triton is a real piece of malware linked to Russian state-sponsored hackers. It was designed specifically to target safety instrumented systems, or SIS, in industrial plants.
And those are the systems that prevent explosions, right?
Exactly. They are the fail-safes. And typically, you can't just install malware on a secure industrial system. The system checks to see if the software is signed by a trusted administrator.
But if I have the administrator's private key,
you can digitally sign the malware yourself. The system looks at the code, sees the valid signature, and says, oh, the boss says this software is okay. Install it.
That is the ultimate nightmare scenario. You are literally using the system's own immune system against itself.
You can also execute man-in-the-middle attacks, silently intercepting data. You can forge documents, create fake purchase orders, fake approvals that look 100% authentic, or you can use a cloak, an encrypted session, where you hide your activity using the system's own encryption tools so the good guys can't even see what you are doing.
Which leads directly to phase 3, result and damage.
Right. And the results range from massive data theft, stealing all that sensitive, personally identifiable information and protected health information, to denial of service, literally shutting down the grid or payment networks.
And ultimately, reputation.
Yes. If a bank's blockchain is compromised in this way, who is ever going to trust that bank again? It's a total loss of trust.
It's the end of the enterprise. Okay, so we've terrified everyone listening. The lock is broken, the attackers are gathering data, and the kill chain is completely mapped out. But the research also talks about the solution.
Fortunately, yes. We aren't entirely helpless here. There is a whole field of mathematics dedicated to fixing this, called post-quantum cryptography, or PQC.
So the locks are broken. How do we build better locks?
That is the exact question the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST, has been asking for years. They launched a massive global competition to find new algorithms. The goal is to find math problems that are easy enough for classical computers to run, but completely impossible for quantum computers to break.
And the leading contender seems to be something called lattice-based cryptography. Can you explain that without making our listeners' heads explode?
Well, I will do my best.
Good luck.
Think of current cryptography. ECDSA, like trying to factor a ridiculously huge number. A quantum computer is an absolute genius at factoring numbers because of how it processes probabilities simultaneously. Lattice-based cryptography is entirely different. It's geometry.
Geometry. Okay.
Imagine a grid, like a piece of graph paper. But instead of 2 dimensions, imagine a grid with 500 dimensions.
500-dimensional graph paper. My brain hurts already.
Just hold on to the concept. Now put a specific point somewhere on that grid. Then skew the entire grid. Twist it, distort it. Now ask the computer to find the point closest to the origin, 0, 0.
Right.
It turns out finding that specific point in a twisted 500-dimensional lattice is incredibly hard, even for a quantum computer. It doesn't rely on factoring. The quantum computer just gets lost in the geometry.
Okay, I can actually visualize that. A twisted 500-dimension maze. So, in the research by Gan and Yokubov from the JBBA, they compared different lattice-based algorithms to see which one actually works best, specifically for blockchain. And it turned into this heavyweight fight between 2 main contenders, Falcon and dilithium.
The tank versus the ninja.
I really like that analogy. Let's talk about dilithium first. Star Trek reference aside, the research calls this one robust. Why is it the tank?
Crystal's dilithium is built to be extremely tough. It relies on what we call uniform lattices. It's designed to be secure against a very wide range of attacks, and it's very fast to generate keys. If you're a web server like Amazon generating millions of keys a second for secure sessions, dilithium is great. It's very reliable math.
So why don't we just use it for everything? If it's safe and fast, case closed, right?
Because tanks are heavy?
Heavy in terms of what? Data.
Digital weight. The signature size for dilithium-3, which is the stamp you put on every single envelope, is 3,293 bytes.
Is that a lot? I mean, in a world of terabyte hard drives, 3 kilobytes sounds like absolutely nothing.
For a single PDF file, sure, it's nothing. But a blockchain is a ledger that never forgets. And it's replicated across thousands of computers. Every node has to store it. If Bitcoin or Hyperledger used dilithium, every single transaction would be significantly larger. You are bloating the history of the entire network forever.
Oh, okay.
It slows down propagation, which is the time it takes for a block of data to move across the world.
So the tank just clogs up the highway. If the blocks are too big, the network gets slow, transaction fees go up, and scalability basically dies.
Exactly. And that is exactly where the ninja comes in. Falcon.
Falcon. It definitely sounds sleeker.
It is. Falcon actually stands for Fast Fourier Lattice-Based Compact Signatures over NTRU.
That is a mouthful.
It is. But it uses this highly complex math called fast Fourier sampling. We don't need to derive the equation here, but the result is a signature that is only 666 bytes.
Wow, 666. That's roughly 5 times smaller than dilithium.
Exactly. And for a blockchain environment, that efficiency is pure gold. It keeps the ledger light, it keeps it fast, it fits comfortably inside existing transaction structures without needing to completely rip up and rewrite the whole system.
So why isn't everyone just using Falcon? Where's the catch?
Ninjas are very hard to train. Implementing Falcon is notoriously difficult. It uses floating point arithmetic, which means decimals, whereas dilithium uses integers, whole numbers.
Why does that matter so much for security?
Because computers handle decimals in a way that can vary slightly in time or power usage depending on the processor. If you code the math even slightly wrong, and I mean slightly, you open yourself up to side-channel attacks.
Side-channel. That means hacking the physical hardware.
Right. A clever hacker can measure the exact heat the processor gives off or the exact nanoseconds it takes to calculate a decimal point. They listen to the electronic hum of the computer and use that physical data to figure out the private key.
That is wild. So writing the code for Falcon is like defusing a bomb. If you hesitate for a millisecond or your hand shakes, you blow it up.
That is precisely why NIST is cautious about it. But the verdict from the Gan and Yokubov research is very clear. For blockchain, where storage and bandwidth are the absolute bottlenecks, Falcon is the more promising candidate. The size advantage is just too massive to ignore. You just have to be really, really careful how you write the code.
So we have the new lock. But we can't just snap our fingers and switch everyone from ECDSA to Falcon overnight, right? That would break the entire global infrastructure.
No, you can't. And that is the massive transition problem we face. Dr. Campbell proposes a hybrid approach. You don't just throw away the old keys immediately. You run a post-quantum algorithm alongside the classical one.
The research mentioned something called Q-Tesla in this context, too.
Yes, Q-Tesla was another early contender Dr. Campbell analyzed. It was an interesting approach based on ring learning with errors, but the key sizes were massive. We're talking 17 kilobytes for a public key in some early versions.
17 kilobytes. That's bigger than an entire text email.
Exactly. Even with clever optimizations like public key splitting to reduce the size, it really showed the painful trade-offs we face with PQC. But the hybrid concept itself remains the best path forward. Dr. Campbell proposes embedding the new PQC keys inside the digital certificates, the X.509 certificates that we use today.
So wrapping the new key in the old wrapper.
In a way, yes. The certificate is your digital ID card. Dr. Campbell argues we need to redesign that ID card to hold two public keys simultaneously, your ECDSA key for today and your PQC key for tomorrow.
That creates a bridge. If I trust your system today, I use the old key. If I want to send you a message that needs to be secure all the way in 2030, I use the new key.
Precisely. And this is vital for defending against that harvest now, decrypt later threat we talked about. If we switch to that hybrid certificate right now, then the data we encrypt right now using the PQC key is safe from the quantum computer of the future. If we wait until the quantum computer actually exists to switch, all the data we sent in the meantime is lost forever.
That is the most critical takeaway. The fix has to happen before the threat arrives. Which brings us to the other side of the coin. We've talked tech, we've talked math. Now we have to talk about the law. Because if the tech fails, the lawyers are waiting.
The regulatory hammer. This is where it gets very personal for the C-suite. We are talking about GDPR in Europe and HIPAA in the US.
And these laws are incredibly strict about data protection.
They are. And they both contain specific language about taking reasonable measures to protect sensitive data.
Reasonable measures. That sounds a bit open to interpretation.
It is until it isn't. Dr. Campbell argues, and I completely agree, that since we know quantum computers are coming and we know ECDSA is mathematically vulnerable, failing to upgrade to post-quantum cryptography could legally be considered negligence.
You really can't say I didn't know when the director of NIST, Google, and the British Blockchain Association are all shouting it from the rooftops.
Exactly. If a hospital continues to use ECDSA to protect patient health records for the next 5 years, and then those records get decrypted by a quantum attack, a lawyer can stand up in court and say, the JBBA published a paper on this exact threat back in 2020, why didn't you act?
And the fines are not just a slap on the wrist.
Not at all. GDPR can fine you up to 20 million euros, or 4% of your global annual revenue. For a company like Google or a major international bank, that is billions of dollars. HIPAA fines can hit $1.5 million per year per violation category. And that is just the regulatory fines. It doesn't even cover the class action lawsuits, the reputational damage, the crash in stock value.
There's a fascinating paradox here that the sources touch on too. The conflict between blockchain's nature and GDPR regarding the right to be forgotten.
This is a huge philosophical and technical clash. GDPR Article 17 clearly says if I want my data deleted, you have to delete it.
But a blockchain is immutable. You cannot delete anything. That is the whole point of the ledger.
Right. So the industry came up with a clever workaround called crypto shredding. You don't delete the data itself, you delete the private key needed to decrypt the data. If the key is gone forever, the data is just random garbage. It's effectively deleted.
But wait, if a quantum computer can derive the key from the public data.
Exactly. You see the trap. If I can use a quantum computer to restore the key you shredded or just crack the encryption directly, then the data is not forgotten. It is resurrected.
It's zombie data.
It is zombie data. This means every single blockchain that currently relies on crypto shredding for GDPR compliance is fundamentally non-compliant in a post-quantum world unless they upgrade their encryption right now.
That is a legal time bomb sitting right next to the data time bomb.
And it brings us right back to Hyperledger Fabric and that membership service provider we discussed in the kill chain. If the MSP isn't quantum-proof, you cannot verify identities. If you can't verify identities, you cannot prove who accessed what data. You can't prove compliance. The entire concept of a permission blockchain collapses because you can no longer trust the permissions.
So we have the quantum threat, the kill chain mapping the attack, the battle of the algorithms, and the massive legal nightmare. The final piece of the puzzle we have to look at is, what do we actually do? How do organizations fix this?
Dr. Campbell outlines a comprehensive risk management framework in his paper. It's heavily based on NIST Special Publication 837. Sounds like a lot of boring paperwork, but it is actually a survival guide for enterprises.
It's a 6-step life cycle approach. Let's run through it for everyone listening, but not just as a dry checklist. Let's look at it as a battle strategy. Step 1, categorize.
You have to know what you have. What data is actually sitting on your chain? Is it public supply chain info? Is it private patient records? Is it control codes for a power plant? You cannot protect what you don't understand. If you treat all data the same, you will go bankrupt trying to encrypt mundane data with military-grade post-quantum cryptography.
That makes sense.
No.
Step 2, select.
This is where you choose your specific controls. Are we moving to Falcon? Are we implementing a hybrid model? This is the design phase where you decide, do I need the tank? Or do I need the ninja?
Step 3, implement.
This is usually the hardest part, actually migrating the code. Changing the locks on millions of active accounts without locking everyone out of the building. This deeply requires something called crypto agility. You need an architecture that allows you to swap out encryption algorithms without having to rebuild the entire house from scratch.
Step 4, assess.
You have to test it rigorously. This is exactly what Gahn and Yokubov did in their JBBA paper. You verify the implementation. Is it fast enough? Does it break the memory limits of the nodes? Is the code completely secure against those physical side channel attacks we talked about? You hire the best white hat hackers to try and break it before the state-sponsored guys do?
Step 5, authorize.
Someone has to formally sign off. A human being, a CEO, a chief information security officer, has to look at the metrics and say, I accept the remaining risk. Because there is always some residual risk. You can never eliminate it entirely. You can only manage it to an acceptable level.
And finally, step 6, monitor.
It never ends. You have to continuously watch for new threats. Maybe a brand new quantum algorithm appears next year that somehow breaks Falcon. You have to be ready to pivot all over again. This is the core concept of cyber resilience. It's not about being permanently unhackable. It's about the ability to anticipate, withstand, recover, and adapt.
Anticipate, withstand, recover, and adapt. That is a powerful mantra for the digital age, if I've ever heard one.
It really is. The era of set it and forget it security is completely over.
This has been a massive deep dive. We've gone from the theoretical physics of quantum mechanics all the way down into the nitty-gritty of byte sizes in Falcon signatures and navigated the legal paradoxes of GDPR zombie data.
And the overarching theme of all of it is urgency.
So what does this actually mean for you, the listener? Whether you are a CEO, a lead developer, or just someone with a crypto wallet holding your savings.
It means you need to stop assuming that technology is magic. It's math, and math evolves. Your data lives on these chains. If you are a business leader, you need to be actively asking your CTO right now, what is your crypto agility plan? When are we migrating to PKC?
And if you are a developer,
you need to start learning about lattice-based cryptography today. Go read the Gahn and Yokubov paper in the JBBA. Understand the fundamental differences between dilithium and Falcon. Because in 5 years, knowing how to securely implement these algorithms will be the most valuable skill in the entire industry.
and if you are just an everyday user,
Be acutely aware that everything you put on a permanent ledger is truly permanent. The encryption protecting it today might completely dissolve in 10 years. Act accordingly. Maybe don't put your deepest, darkest secrets on a public chain.
I want to leave you with a thought. We used to say, diamonds are forever. And we've really applied that exact same thinking to blockchain. The blockchain is forever.
But in cryptography, nothing is forever. The question isn't, will quantum computers break the blockchain? The question is, will we migrate our trust before they do? The code already exists. Falcon exists. The risk management framework exists. The only missing variable right now is the will to act.
And on that profound note, we want to thank the British Blockchain Association, the Center for Evidence-Based Blockchain, and Dr. Rob Campbell, along with Gahn and Bakhtiyor Yokubov, for this incredible research. It's scary, but it is much better to be scared and prepared than happy and hacked.
Absolutely true.
Look at the lock on your digital door a little differently today. Stay curious, stay informed, and stay secure. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.